Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
I'm very excited to have you here and to be having the first conversation for the Atelier interview series. And I thought I would just introduce a little bit about the series itself and then go on to introduce you, Katharina. So, for everyone listening, this is the first kind of conversation rather than written interview that I'm doing for the Atelier interview, which is a collaborative series exploring our creative spaces, processes, and rituals. And I've been finding that over the course of doing the interviews, which I really enjoy, that so often answers will come back in written form. And I'm thinking, oh, I'd love to ask more about that and to really kind of have that collaborative focus on the chat and to make it into more of a kind of two-way conversation. And the reason I first started working on the Atelier interview series was really kind of a personal reason that I was finding that I was kind of having some more time to myself without my children around all the time, and finding that I was either in a space where their stuff was everywhere or chores that needed doing, or I was taking myself out of home into a cafe, into a kind of into a different location, and all of that was fine. But I got to a point where I really wanted to have a bit of space for myself, and so really I wanted to kind of have conversations with people and just hear about other people's spaces, whether it was a designated space or whether it was working, weaving it in with the rest of life, and to kind of collate lots of insights for that. But I feel like since it's evolved and since I've had lots of insights from different people, I'm realizing how important and how interesting it is to explore creatives' space and where they create and how they make it work. And I actually came across a quote recently from Katie Hessel, who's she's written a couple of books, but her upcoming book is called How to Live an Artful Life, and she
Wow.
talks about how you should never underestimate the power of seeking out an artist's home and surroundings. And what might feel like a domestic space is actually a portrait of someone's interior life and their mind. So I thought that was really interesting and just kind of validated everything that I was finding when speaking to people about their creative processes and their space. So we have Katharina Geissler-Evans here today. She is the visionary behind Fighter, which is a magazine and curated space and evolving lifestyle brand for those seeking joy in the everyday. Um, and Haita is such a beautiful magazine if you haven't seen it, and it's also on Substack now.
Yes.
I will let Katharina talk more about it. I just love the way that you bring in your extensive kind of experience in fashion and media to have created this platform that kind of balances our professional lives, our creativity, and kind of personal well-being as well. So yes, would you like to tell us about your creative life?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yourself. Yeah,
Okay. Thanks so much for having me, Lindsay. It is an honor to be your first guest on this new series. So yeah, thanks so much for
pleasure.
thinking of me. As Lindsay already mentioned, my name is Katharina or Kiki. I run Haita magazine, and running a magazine in itself can be a very creative process. There are a lot of planning and well, there are a lot of business chores behind it as well, but I still have time for creativity. I have always been a creative, I would say, even as a child. When I think back, I've always made up stories. I've always made up play. I always loved drawing, designing my own clothes. Yeah, it's no surprise that I ended up working in a creative field. From a background point of view, I did grow up in Austria, which was a really lovely experience. There's a lot of nature where I grew up, and that's definitely a source for inspiration for me.
Mm.
Um, but Austria is not massive on the fashion side. So I always wanted to leave and explore other cities. And I did that for the first time when I was 20. I left home and moved to London for the first time. London continues to be one of the most inspiring cities to me. And I actually moved to London to work as an au pair, but during that time I discovered London College of Fashion, and it became a goal to study there. And I eventually did that. Before I started, I left London again. I lived in Italy for a bit. I lived in New York, again, very inspiring places that just made me realize even more how much I wanted to work in fashion and how much I wanted to work as a creative, really. And then eventually I got accepted at London College of Fashion. So moved back and focused on fashion media and communication, as Lindsay already mentioned. And that opened up a very new path for me. I've always been into magazines, and London College of Fashion was really great with preparing me for that industry, preparing me for that world. My course was very varied, and I had the opportunity to explore different fields within the creative industries. I had photography lessons, styling lessons. I learned a lot about the things behind how you create a creative concept, for instance, how you publish a magazine, how you deal with digital media. That's, when I studied, that was, let me think, nearly 10 years ago, more than that actually. Okay. And, things started to shift, and publications moved more towards the online world. But it was still very new, and it was a lovely way to explore and to get to know those different fields. Because of that, I ended up working in the fashion industry for a long time. I actually ended up working in retail and e-commerce, but that was, again, very creative as well. And that opened up different opportunities. It inspires me to create my own magazine. We will talk about that probably a little bit more. And I also, what I still do is I also work as a fashion stylist, which I think is also a very creative and fun job to have.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I was actually also came across something earlier that said when multi-passionates come together, we create kind of new new disciplines almost by bringing all of these different things together that we're interested in and passionate about. So lovely to hear about all of the different kind of influences and in your professional background. And I wondered how you went from the fashion into creating this magazine and really the theme of it, with Heiter meaning joy and cheerfulness. I don't know if there's a specific word in English that kind of captures it.
Well, it is actually an adjective. So joyful and cheerful is great. If you wanted, the German noun is Heiterkeit.
Heiterkeit,
so
yes,
that would be the cheerfulness. But I very much started from the point of view of wanting to find Heiter moments, so joyful moments in my everyday life. Well, the reason why I found it was actually I suffered from burnout. Still, I love the fashion industry, but when I worked in the fashion industry, I also worked far too much, and I still studied on the side because I just wanted to have another degree. I wanted to still be part of university, and I worked as well. But that meant that I forgot about myself. And if you don't fill your own cup, sooner or later you crash, and that is what happened to me. I didn't listen to myself, and I literally needed my body to tell me to stop and think about what was going on. And when I was at that point, I'm not sure if you've been in a similar situation before, Lindsay, but I was in my 20s, and I feel like my 20s were very much about fulfilling other people's expectations. So I wanted to be brilliant at my job. I wanted to be brilliant at my studies. And I was just trying to do all the things that other people expected from me. And I never really thought about reflecting and listening to my own feelings. Yeah, and when you don't do that, then you have to wait for that big crash until you make a change. And
it's interesting your experience, because I definitely felt the same in my 20s. It was very much kind of external validation, not necessarily intentionally, but that just was kind of the way it was, and very much being out there and of the world, and kind of doing it all in some way, but then sort of in the process not being able to hear my own voice. And really it was kind of physical symptoms as well in the end that kind of were the big kind of wake up call as well. It's really interesting to have had a very similar experience, and then recovering from that and the process. So for you, it was very much finding these joyful moments.
Yeah. Well, at first the realization that I was the only one who could get myself out of it. It wasn't anyone else. Because, when I was younger, again, I was looking for the external approval, but I also thought that other people know better and that other people can perhaps help. But in that situation, there was a massive shift, and I realized it was me who had to change the situation. I didn't really know how to approach it, but my first reaction was, okay, right, I'm in that state now. I need to make sure I'm better. And even if that just means taking myself out for a coffee or going for a walk or doing a little bit of drawing, doing things that I used to enjoy when I was younger and before I overworked myself. And that really made a massive difference. And I was so amazed that could change things around for me. And, little by little, I got better and I felt inspired again. And I wanted to be creative again. And I could go back to work, and I could go back to university and finish university. And finishing university also meant coming up with a final project. And in my case, that was bringing out a publication.
Wow. There it is.
Second issue.
Wow, what a project.
Yes. I brought out the pilot version. So that was back in 2016, nearly 10 years ago. And around that time, Instagram was still very new. But I started to do courses, and I thought, from the knowledge I had from uni as well, I knew that just a physical print magazine probably wouldn't get me that far. I would have to approach the multi-channel marketing. That is how I kind of fell into Instagram. I created a blog, and things started to grow from there. A community emerged, and I slowly moved into doing community events as well, creative events. I started to do more research into happiness and well-being and what's part of that, and that very much linked in with my own experience. So again, connection is a big part of it, feeling less alone, having that creative approach, learning new things, the physical aspect, how you nourish your body, or how how yoga, Pilates, or even just going for a walk can impact your well-being. The spiritual side, that is where the meditation comes in, that you still find with Heiter once a month. We organize that for our community members. Also living according to my own values, and that is where my background still comes in. The things I enjoy, the things I believe in, sustainability is a part of that. But I think with my fashion background, I'm really, really passionate about talking about that sustainability can be stylish too, because I think there have been misconceptions at the moment. That is how I grew out for it. But I did have the pilot version back then, and it actually took me up until 2022 to have the guts and really bring out a print issue.
Wow, I love that though. I like how, the longevity, which I feel is very much a part of the issues and the brand now. Everything seems to be like taking little steps towards creating, what you want Heiter to be. And it seems really interesting. So in 2022, you launched the first issue.
Yes. That was the same week my daughter was born. That was baby number 2 already.
My goodness.
Wow. Baby number 1 was baby number 1 was a COVID baby. So our son was born 2 weeks prior to the first hard lockdown. And obviously that was a time where we were home a lot. It was also a time where yes, I had to look after him, but he was a fairly easy baby, so I felt like I
Okay.
could still do a lot of creative work. And I thought, well, if that's the case, then I can easily bring out print when baby number 2 is here. But yeah, it was a bit of a shocker. 2 children and then trying to run a print publication wasn't as easy as I thought.
No, I can
Yes.
imagine. I absolutely can imagine. It is interesting how many parallels we have, because my daughter was born 6 weeks before the first lockdown.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, and to be honest, I don't think you could class her as an easy baby. She was full on, very sensitive baby, bless her. But it was amazing in lots of ways, difficult in lots of ways too, as you know, and lots of people know. But yeah, no, that's really interesting. And then my second child was 2022 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't launch a print magazine at the same time. It was, I think, maybe a year later that I then set up my Substack actually, and that really did feel like it was really needed to have that kind of creative
Mm-hmm.
outlet, but very much like you say, as kind of bringing together all of the things that I love as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and I can see why that is important to you, but that's just incredible how you've managed to do all of that within these last few years.
Yeah.
Incredible. Um, so you've mentioned moving around and you're now
Mm-hmm.
in Edinburgh.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you kind of write and create now? Is it in one place or do you move around? And how does that differ from previous places
Mm-hmm.
that you've been in?
So now it's very different. We're in a small flat. We're really lucky
Yeah.
to be able to rent this flat. It's quite
Yeah.
central. But yes, a family of 4, it is pretty small. So I don't have a dedicated working space.
Hmm.
If I work, well, I also have to say we have limited childcare at the moment. This is before we moved to Edinburgh. That only happened in October. We lived in Austria, and my
Hmm.
parents were close by, and our childcare setup was really great. And I also had my own office there, and it really it looked like me, and it was the ideal place to work.
Yeah.
So now, well, I don't want to say the situation we're in right now is not ideal. It's just very different, and
Yes.
I have to work with what I've got. So
Hmm.
that means limited time. I
Yeah.
usually have 2 afternoons a week to do all my creative work, but then on top of that, also try to figure out the admin around business,
Yeah.
and do some things for myself as well, and do some
Yeah.
of the
That's a
household
lot of
bits that I
time.
don't get done when the children are around.
Yes.
Yeah, at the moment, most of my work is actually done at the kitchen table.
Hmm.
And now I work from bed in the
Yeah.
bedroom.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't look as curated as my office used to do.
No.
But I still feel like that just getting my laptop out, setting up my working station, getting myself a drink can really help to get me into that mood. I also have a physical diary, and once
Hmm.
that's in front of me, I know, okay, now it's working time, and now I can
Yeah.
either do the creative part or either do the admin part. Yeah.
That's really interesting how you have like those kind of simple everyday things as your anchors. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the hot drink or the cold drink and your diary. I think that's important because I think it's important to anchor into our creative work, but also if you have too many like elaborate rituals going on, it can sometimes be a bit of a barrier to thinking, oh, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have time to do all this. And when
Yeah.
you've got such limited time, which I really do empathize with, I've had that exact thing before, and I now do have more time. But still trying to fit all of those things that you've mentioned into the time is difficult. So with those 2 afternoons, you just have to get on
With
with
it.
what you
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
And I have to be very accepting. That is what I've learned as well. And when I don't
Yeah.
get things done, then that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of my biggest learnings from motherhood really is that kind of softening to the situation,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that the time will come at another time. And yeah, and just being okay with that and doing, what you can and prioritizing, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it means that a lot is left undone and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of being okay with that. I think it's difficult because I think previously to motherhood, I would yeah, be doing so much all of the time and ticking things off, and sometimes
Yeah.
that's just not possible at all. Um, you've mentioned a couple of different places that you work. Does that depend on what you're doing? Do you have like would you go to the kitchen table for certain things, the
It
bed
depends
for
on what
other
you're doing, and
things?
it
Yeah,
also depends on the internet connection.
yeah,
Sounds really boring,
practic. No, no,
but
it's very
it
true.
can be
Yeah,
a bit iffy
important.
in the
Yeah,
kitchen. That is why I'm in the
okay.
bedroom right now as well.
Oh, I see.
Just
Okay,
having,
yeah. Also very important to have
yeah.
that. And about you mentioned all the different things that you do, as well as
Mhm.
the magazine, the styling, the community, membership. How do you like to approach a creative work day? Is there a typical work day, or is it always quite different?
It can be very different. Again, now because I spend so much time with my children, I
Mm,
don't know how it is for you, but I have creative outbursts, and
yes.
it's the same with my energy. I have days where I have a lot of energy, and other days I don't. And with my creativity, it's very similar. It's very intuitive.
Hmm.
I do have outbursts, and yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes that happens next to my kids. So what I always have notes on my phone when I
Yeah.
have ideas, and I constantly
Yeah.
write things down. And I also have a physical notebook, and where I can
Hmm.
even, well, if something comes to mind, I quickly write it down so that I don't forget. And
Yeah.
then when I actually have time for that, the creative project I'm working on, or even if it's just writing a newsletter, I go back, look at it, and then I go from there.
Yeah.
So creativity is first, then that's, I would say, quite something admin that you have it written down, and then it's
Yeah.
all planned. I have time now to do that thing that I wanted to do. I felt like doing it a few days
Mm.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you can elaborate on it when you've got more
Yeah.
time. But I identify very much with that, creating kind of in the edges of motherhood
Mhm.
and within the day, and just kind of little snatches of time to note things down. And actually, I had a similar experience the other day of not not being with my children, walking back from the school run, but deciding to
Mhm.
take the long route and going through the woods. And I was like, well, do I really have time for this? And actually, walking through the woods, all of these ideas kept like coming to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to run home so I can write this all down. And it's just amazing how when you're not necessarily in like creative mode, that things
Mhm.
can, you know, come in, and yeah, and it's just noting them down and then trying to make space for yeah, creating around that when you've actually got a bit more time. Do you
Yeah.
find that you do quite a bit in the evenings? How does that look to
Um,
you, or are you
in the
too
evenings,
exhausted?
not so much. I always
No,
try to plan that in, but I can't. I'm a morning person.
no, I completely know what you mean.
Yeah, I wonder how it'll go from late August, because well, our son starts school in August, and our
Yeah.
daughter will then have a morning nursery spot. At the moment, they both
Okay.
go to nursery in the afternoon,
Yeah.
and I think that it might change, and
The
then it'll
morning might,
actually, yeah, be easier
yeah,
for me to get some
I
work
think
done.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, for the evening, I always have the intention, but I hardly ever get around to it.
Yeah,
I
I
can't.
know what you mean. I feel like I used to a lot more when I had the children most of the time, because I
Mhm.
had no real choice. But at the same time, I'm
Yeah,
more of a morning person too. Um, and my brain is usually like just frazzled by then, and I'm tired, so it's not ideal. And but actually now I've got a bit more time in the day. I try not to do that, but I can see the summer holidays coming up where I
hmm,
have no childcare at all,
I know.
and
Yeah.
so that will probably be the case, that I'll be back in the evenings, but we'll see. We
No.
will see. In terms of surroundings,
Mhm.
do you feel that your surroundings are important to you?
Definitely. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I am very much, I love being at home. And that is
yeah,
why I loved having that own office so much.
yeah, yeah,
Well, even with our home, um, again, where we are right now, it's not a long-term solution. The majority of our things are still in Austria, but when I
yeah.
look at the place we had in Austria, we can still go back there. It's actually part of my parents' house.
Oh
Um,
wow.
it is all very much curated, and there are all a lot
Hmm.
of things that inspire me. And I'm someone who wants to style their home, and I just really want our home to look like us.
Yeah.
And that I find really inspiring. When I walk
Mm,
into my old office, I have prints up that I like. I have souvenirs up from our travels,
yeah.
um, photos of achievements. You know, it's something that I find really empowering, encouraging, and then also inspiring. Now I just try to get inspiration from things that are around us. We live close to the sea, and water has a really soothing and calming effect on me. So even when I'm by the sea with the children, I try to, you know, see the beauty in it, and I find that very inspiring. And when I have a little bit of time, I try to go to museums, for instance, to fill up my cup again, or read. I couldn't really read when the children were younger. I listened to a lot of audiobooks, and that was very inspiring in a way as well. But about a year ago, I started to read physical books again. That just, you know, transports me to a different world, and I get a lot out of it as well. And the same goes for magazines. I do buy the odd magazine now and then, and you know, just
get lost in those. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny, I have had the same very similar thing with reading. I found it, since my children have been small, really difficult to just kind of properly immerse myself. I think there's something to do with just that kind of slight feeling of nervous system, just like, you know, being interrupted all the time, or someone needing you or whatever, even if they're asleep or whatever. I've just found it quite hard to really get into a book. So I'm finding that really short stories has been the way forward for me in recent times. I would love to get, I mean, it just takes me so long to read anything. So it also, my new approach is to not just be reading one thing, but to have a few different ones, because I was just finding that I felt like I had to finish what I was reading before I could move on to something else. And I know some people don't like that approach. They want to kind of like really, you know, get into a book, which I feel like I can do that with others on the go. But the short stories, which also I feel bad about my neck, which is part of the Heiser book club, is one of the only books I finished recently, which is just perfect because it was funny. It was the short chapters of different, you know, stories or memoir kind of writing, and that was ideal to be honest. So thank you for that. I look forward to talking about it more.
Me too.
So while you're not in your ideal space at the moment, is there a way that you like to feel whilst you are working or creating? Is there kind of a vibe you like to?
Just calm and you know, at peace.
I think that's important. I do. I think, as you say, like we can get inspiration from so many different places, but actually until we're kind of in that place of stillness, it's quite hard to then actually act upon it or kind of bring it all together, I think. So calm and at peace sounds good to me.
The opposite of everyday life.
Yes, exactly that. So how do you kind of create that feeling of calm and peacefulness when you're in a space that, you know, may have other stuff going on around you?
I guess, again, just, you know, setting up my workstation, trying to move other things to the side. So that I don't necessarily see them all the time. And maybe lighting a candle. That's something I still do now and then. That's a quick one that helps me to decompress.
I always find that as well. It's such a simple kind of ritual, but I always find that as well kind of signals that you're, you know, doing something intentional. And I think just kind of taking that care for yourself and an intention around your work, I think is really nice and really important.
Totally. Especially if the candle is scented, I'm just thinking scents can really help with that. And I do have aroma plant rollers that I sometimes put on as well, and then that really soothes the nervous system.
Absolutely. Did you create a candle or something? Did you?
No. Well, no, that's on the list.
Okay.
There was a candle people could purchase with homecoming, and there will be definitely one with blooming. That's the issue that's planned to launch next year. That's in collaboration with the candle brand. But I also there's also the plan to create aroma blend products.
How exciting. I knew there was something scent
Yeah.
related going on for sure. I was in the garden as early as I could be this morning, and the jasmine scent was just so beautiful. And I
Mm.
feel like actually on my walk to school and back, there were a couple of things that different scents along the way that reminded me of other times or other places. And I was like, oh, it is so, so important and so powerful, really,
Mm.
the sense of smell, I think. Yeah, and that we can do that quite easily with candles and aroma blends and things like that. That's really interesting. So we've talked about sourcing creative inspiration.
Mhm.
I love the idea of making time to go to museums and galleries and things, and that's something I do try and do as well. It's
Mhm.
amazing how, just being in that space and seeing things makes such a huge difference. I find there's almost that sort of idea of artist date about it, just
Mhm.
taking yourself
Yeah.
somewhere and yeah, just so many layers of loveliness that we can
I can't do the morning
achieve.
pages anymore, but I can still
No,
go.
can do artist dates. Yeah, if we have to prioritize. Absolutely. Um, and so I would love to know, as you're, yeah, I think we all have kind of our dream creative spaces that we
Yes.
would love to have. What would yours be? What would be your dream creative studio space?
Well, it would be quite big, quite light,
Mm-hmm.
with lots of shelves for all my magazines and books.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of coffee table books. That's also a source for
Mhm.
inspiration, especially. And that was
Yeah.
funny. What was the quote that you mentioned at the begining? It had to do with,
Yes, not underestimating artists' homes and domestic spaces as
yeah,
like an insight into their internal kind of
yeah,
interior mind. Yeah.
yeah. Well, because I find interior books extremely
Oh,
inspiring.
yeah.
I don't really work in the in interior industry, but
Mm,
that just really does something to me. But
I know what you mean.
especially homes that are really eclectic and colorful. I just love
Mm,
that, and that sparks excitement.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
I would have
love that.
lots of shelves with all those things. I would have my crystals up.
Hmm.
Again, all the prints that we've collected over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would be a cozy corner.
That's
um,
important, I
yeah, where
feel.
I could
Yeah.
do my journaling or even calm down for a bit.
Yeah.
And plants definitely
Yeah,
impact happiness.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and then a desk. And again, because I love drawing so much, it's not really part of my job, but
Yeah.
that's just for me to get creative. I would probably also have an art corner.
Oh, yeah. That sounds amazing. That just I can kind of picture it in my mind, like high ceilings, big windows. Oh, it sounds amazing. And I think you're right. I also art is not within my creative practice, but I did buy these paints literally just before my daughter was born in 2020, thinking, oh, I'm going to spend my maternity leave doing this, and it hasn't happened. But I would love to bring that in some way, and just doing something like for the sake of it rather than for there to be a goal in any way. I think it's important. But again, there's the whole time thing. When you've only got these pockets of time, it's tricky to actually make that a reality as well. But I do think it's very important. Maybe an art corner with an easel would be inspiring.
One day.
One day, exactly. Amazing. It's been so lovely to hear about your creative space and your processes and rituals and just how you make it work in kind of you know, the busyness of everyday life and around your children as well. I mean, yeah, just super, super interesting. Is there anything else you wanted to mention or talk about? Um,
Um, no, I just think if it was someone else, as a tip, maybe just be
yes.
on yourself and don't force it.
That's a really lovely thing. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. It's that intuitive. I loved how you said about that, that your creativity kind of has an intuitive way of finding you and to follow that rather than trying to force things. Yeah, and going a little bit easier on ourselves is always, yeah, key, I think. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kiki. It's been lovely. And we're very excited to see what's next for Heita.
Thank you so much for having
Okay,
me. Have a good
wonderful. You too. Speak
night.
soon.